a lot of people in leadership positions would agree with as you said. Yeah, you know what, we got to be servants, and yeah, I see myself as a servant leader because I see myself. Of course, I'm an awesome leader. That's what everybody, that everybody who reports to me tells me I'm an awesome leader. They gave me a mug that says "World's Greatest Boss." They laugh at all my jokes, and they're just and they're really nice to me. So I must be that awesome leader that I thought I was. So the problem is that we don't live up to our image of ourselves. It's easy to live up to the image of ourselves when things are great. When it's like, oh yeah, I'm in a great mood, everything's going good. But when we have problems, that's really when leaders, are made or not. And it's how people in leadership positions handle problems and handle frustrations. And that's, and for some reason we forget about how we turn into these, Mr. Hydes. We're Dr. Jekyll all the time, right? But we forget about when we turn into Mr. Hyde when things go wrong. And so what it's important. So I wrote the book, How Leaders Can Inspire Accountability, because look, I'm a lot of people say, oh, Michael, your jam is accountability. My jam is leadership, really. But what's the most important thing you got to do as a leader? You've got to create you've got to create an environment where everybody wants to step up and take ownership of results, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I wrote a book, How Leaders Can Inspire Accountability, specifically to do what you were talking about doing, which is, what are the key behaviors that we need to remember, that we need to keep in mind to do when things go wrong, right? And it's at those times when things go wrong that we really need to show leadership. And as you also mentioned, being a leader is hard. It is hard because we have to do things a lot of times that are not natural, that aren't, in fact, go completely against our nature. And so what I share in my book and what I share with leaders there are a handful of high impact leadership behaviors. And there are, in fact, you can boil personal accountability down to 3 simple behaviors. Now, each one of these behaviors, like I said, goes completely against our basic nature. It goes against the way we are both psychologically wired and in some cases, the way we are biologically wired. So you ready? Here are the 3 habits of personal accountability. Habit number 1, when things go wrong, don't blame, period. Don't blame. Why? Why don't blame? Because blame kills accountability. It kills accountability in yourself, right? Well, I'm not accountable because, this is the blame.
Somebody else's fault.
It's somebody else's fault, right? So it kills accountability in yourself. But here's the amazing thing. It kills accountability in other people. Nobody is going to want to step up and take accountability if they think that they're going to be blamed for doing so. So that's habit number 1, don't blame. Habit number 2 is look in the mirror, which means acknowledge your part in the problem. Most of us are wired to believe that when problems happen, it is 100% one person's fault or one circumstance's fault. But the more as the scientific community has learned about problems and mistakes, the more we've learned about that, we have learned that most problems, most big screw-ups especially, are a combination of factors. And oftentimes, human error, it is the first place we go to. Why did this happen? Because that person's an idiot. That's why that happened, right? When in fact, the reason that person behaved that way is because there was a lot of things encouraging them to do that. And perhaps the system or the process they were following does not support the right behavior, or in fact, encourages the completely wrong behavior.
Beautiful. You talk a lot about systems thinking, and I want to get into that at some point in some detail.
Sure.
I think systems thinking puts people on a whole another level, but I keep talking. So
sure.
Number 1,
so the third habit.
Yeah.
So habit number 1, don't blame. Habit number 2 is look in the mirror, which means to say, you know what? There are probably things that I either did or didn't do that contributed to that problem that my gut is telling me, well, that person's to blame. But if you look hard enough, there are likely things you did or did not do that made that problem more likely to happen or made the consequences more severe. And those of us in leadership positions, we're the ones who design the processes, right? We're the ones who design the systems. And so a lot of if you look hard enough, you can usually find something. So anyways, we'll talk about that in just a sec. But the third habit is to engineer the solution, which is to, like I said, fix processes, not people. Leaders, and when you take a look at all three of those behaviors, they are the complete opposite of what leaders want to do when things go wrong. We want to blame the person closest to mess. We want to disregard anything that we might have had to do with the problem. And our solution is basically, let's just rub this person's nose in it. Let's shame them sufficiently that they'll learn better, or eventually we'll just fire them, right? So let's just focus on the problem. And if we can just, and that's not the way to solve your problems. But anyways, those three habits, you can boil personal accountability down to those three simple habits to understand, very difficult to do. And that's why they're habits. You got to train yourself.